Jamie Rogozinski, founder of WallStreetBets, the Reddit forum that fueled the 2021 meme stock mania, is suing the platform for banning him from the WallStreetBets sub he created, infringing his trademark to WallStreetBets and violating his publicity rights. Social media lawyer Robert Freund breaks down the case, tweeting, Rogozinski called out Reddit for taking advantage of content creators so that it can line its pockets with billions of dollars. He says Reddit claims to espouse inclusion while walking the walk of exploitation.
Freund joins us now to dive deeper into this story. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, help us understand the contours of this. So the founder of WallStreetBets, he has been credited with kind of driving all the fervor to invest in the stocks that created this huge bubble. What was that? Is it just last year or the year before now? I can't even remember. That was so exciting to folks, the idea that the little guy was going to hold on to the bag, drive the value of the stock sky high. People made small fortunes off of this, but of course it all came tumbling down, in part because there were all of these restrictions, right, on people's ability to use the trading platform that made these kind of bets accessible to regular people to begin with, and also because of some moderation on these Reddit forums. So what's the basis of this lawsuit now?
So this lawsuit is based on a decision that Reddit and some of the other moderators of that subreddit made a few years ago to essentially oust the founder, the original creator of the subreddit. And he's claiming that by blocking him and by Reddit continuing to use the WallStreetBets name and mark, he's losing a significant amount of money because he wrote a book about WallStreetBets and his involvement with it. He's losing sales because of that. He's lost contracts related to his use of the WallStreetBets name and so forth. And now that the subreddit is even more popular than it was when he was a moderator, that he's feeling that that financial impact even more. And so he's brought this lawsuit to attempt to right what he perceives as that wrong.
Is that argument going to be persuasive from a legal standpoint, given that he's obviously doesn't own or is part of Reddit itself? Did he, trademark it, that kind of situation?
I think he faces a real uphill battle on most, if not all, of these claims. He applied to trademark the mark WallStreetBets in 2020. The trademark board rejected that application initially, and then Reddit stepped in to oppose it. And he's going to have a tough time arguing that he used the mark first. When you create a subreddit, Reddit owns the subreddit. The people who contribute content to Reddit retain ownership of that content, but everyone grants Reddit a very broad license to essentially use the content however they want for whatever purposes. So it's going to be hard for him to argue that he has a valid trademark in the WallStreetBets name. And I think the publicity rights claim is even more challenging for him because publicity rights protect the right to commercially exploit your name, image, or likeness. And he's not saying Reddit is doing that by continuing to use the WallStreetBets name and promote the subreddit and so forth. He's saying, I'm so closely associated with that subreddit that you're infringing on my publicity rights because of my association with it. But that, at least in California, is not how publicity rights work. So I expect that, as Reddit spokespeople have said, they're going to try to dismiss this early on. And I think, if I had to place a bet right now, I would think that Reddit would probably prevail, but you never really know. And it remains to be seen what arguments each side will put forward.
What about the argument that he was wrongly banned in the first instance?
So he's trying to say that the reason he was suspended was because he was attempting to monetize the subreddit. And he's taking a sort of narrow reading of Reddit's terms, which say, as a moderator, you can't enter into contracts on behalf of a subreddit, and you can't enter into some relationship where you get paid to perform moderation services. So he's saying, that's not what I was doing. I wrote a book. It's not related to my activities as a moderator. And so Reddit went outside of their own community guidelines and their own rules in deciding to ban me. I think the trouble he faces with that kind of argument is that is a very narrow reading of what the terms say. There's other sections of Reddit's terms of service that say effectively you can't use the services or any of the content commercially at all. And we can make the decision to ban a moderator or suspend an account essentially in our sole discretion if we feel like what you're doing is not consistent with Reddit's ethos, basically. And that's what Reddit has said he did. And so that's the challenge that he'll face in convincing a judge that now Reddit actually overstepped in a way that breaches their own terms.
Right. That sounds very difficult to overcome because I assume, like other, social media platforms, other internet sites, that, they have the guidelines, these are the rules, and then they protect themselves by also having a rule such like you just said that, we can really, reading between the lines, we can really ban you for any reason. So then in order to stop an eventuality like this where someone says, well, you banned me for the wrong reasons, they say, well, we don't, the reason is we banned you. We get to do that. So he would have to overcome that in the first place, which doesn't sound likely.
Right. And the real thrust of the case has to do with the trademark portion of it and less about sort of did Reddit breach its own contract when it terminated me or banned him from being a moderator and restricting his access. And like I mentioned, he's got a tough road ahead of him if he's going to convince the court that he has enforceable rights in that mark, and especially that his publicity rights were violated.
Out of curiosity, given what happened with Robinhood and the ways that some of these institutional actors were being pressured to basically stop trading to burst the bubble. I'm curious whether or not the choice to remove him as moderator had anything to do with, was it at all related to trying to prevent similar kinds of behavior that resulted in the spike in stock price and that kind of GameStop phenomenon? Was he one of the people that was encouraging that? And so this is a case of institutional actors using the legal authority, even if they are legally in the right, to prevent him from doing that? Or is this kind of unrelated from that kind of behavior?
So a lot of what you're referencing occurred, especially the media attention around it, after he was already removed.
I see.
And so it doesn't look like the reason that he was removed, and Reddit's not saying, and there's no facts alleged suggesting that the reason they ousted him is because of that sort of concern over what WallStreetBets itself is about, which is enabling greater access to the markets for the everyman. Mm-hmm. What this is really about is, as he's alleged it, and from everything that I can tell, is they didn't like the fact that he's trying to make money off the subreddit, which you're not supposed to do. And the other members of the community saw his actions as trying to capture the economic benefit of being the moderator and what the subreddit is about for himself. And it doesn't appear to be related to that issue that you're talking about with concern over WallStreetBets and how it impacts markets.
Oh, that's good to know. This has been really informative. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.